Welcome to Convo Fango. Today we are joined by Patrick Magee. Yay! Special effects artist, VHS 94, which is now playing. But also, first I would like to talk to you about, you did our Werewolves Within cover. You did the amazing American Werewolf for that cover.
Yes, I did. That was very fun.
Can
Yeah,
you
it was
talk to us a
very,
little?
very rewarding to be able to do that. Because American Werewolf's like the movie I saw way too young and basically got me hooked on special effects makeup.
Mm-hmm.
So to be able to have a werewolf that I made be on Fango 40 years later is like, woo, that dream come true.
Very cool. Do you just have that in your living room? I like to imagine you watching TV and it's just sitting next to you.
No, it's in my studio. I have it like right over here.
Okay, but you can see it right now, so that makes me happy.
I can, yes.
Very cool. All right, so let's talk about VHS 94. I don't know how much you want to get into because I don't know what is spoilery and what isn't, but I also imagine everyone that's watching this right now, or most of them have probably watched. So it's up to you how spoilery you want to be.
Let's assume they saw it all.
Okay. And if you haven't, stop right now. If you're going to get mad at us about spoilers, go watch it and then come back. So you created creatures for not just one, but two of the 5 segments. So tell us a little bit about that. Hail Ratma.
Yes. The Ratmus segment was the first bit I worked on or got to work on initially. And I knew the producers, Brad Miska and Josh Goldblum. Mm-hmm. And I got a call, I think it was from Josh. He's like, hey man, we need you to make a monster. And I was like, okay, all right, need more information. He's like, okay, so we're doing this sequel to the VHS series. Okay. We need this rat creature done. Oh, okay, that sounds interesting. It's a story about a rat, living in the sewers. Okay. Do you have a design or an idea for this? Yeah, we actually have a design. So I'm going to get you in contact with the director and we'll hook that stuff up. It's like, okay, great. So I talked to Chloe Okuno, the director, and she actually had this wonderful design done by an artist named Keith Thompson. And she emailed it to me and I saw the design. I was like, oh, wow, okay, this is not really a rat creature as you think. And this is kind of like a twist on that. And I was like super like, all right, we got to do this thing. But then I talked to Brad and Josh, like, okay, well, being in the east of Canada and I'm in LA and we're shooting in 3 weeks. And it's like, okay, and it's like, okay, let's talk about this. And then it's like, oh, and I need to make a full suit. And at first Chloe's kind of like there, everyone's kind of thinking it's gonna be a full body thing. And I was like, all right, there is no time to do all that work and have it in Toronto in 3 weeks. Right. So I looked at the design and we kind of broke it down to where it would be like a torso and a head. And my main thing was like, who's gonna wear this thing? And they were like, yeah, we don't know. So I went through and I realized, like, with the schedule, I was like, okay, to make this work, like, I gotta just go off of what I have at my studio right now. So I have I had this generic kind of body form that we went off, and I gave them the measurements, and I said, find somebody that over there that'll fit this. So that was like the big X factor as far as when we go to make this stuff. Usually we start on a body that we know is gonna wear it. Mm-hmm. We kind of guessed. And then, the whole creature was made. We timed it out. It was like 14 exact days from when I started putting clay on it to where we put it in a box and shipped it off for next day air.
In 14 days.
14 days.
That's not stressful at all. I'm not stressed just thinking about it.
Every day, it was like there was just like a clock, and it was just like a timer count. Yeah. We tried to put as much stuff in the head as you can before time runs out. So we got the jaw to move and it drips drool and all that kind of stuff. But I rigged the tongue to where the performer inside could blow air into the tongue to make the tongue flop and wiggle. And cool. Kind of all these old school kind of cheap, quick effects to just get this thing to do as much as it could with as little time as we had.
Yeah.
And it worked.
It absolutely did, but it's wild to think you essentially had to work backwards and you weren't working with a lot, it sounds like, aside from, you know, the information you had was you have 3 weeks to get this done.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then fortunately, you know, with the technology, you know, we were able to do Zoom meetings with the makeup artist there. And that was for the rat creature, it was Carly Morse is her name. And I had a person at my studio that kind of fitted the creature pretty well. So we put her in it and we're like, here's the zipper, here's how it glues, here's these things here, you know, and then you just kind of go, good luck, you know, here you go, make it work.
That's
And I did the
awesome.
same, and I did the same with the director, Chloe. It's like, she's like, okay, you know, almost like, what do we do with this thing? And it's like, well, here's what you're going to do. And I, you know, I walked her through it too. It's like, it's weird making kind of, they're all your like babies when you make these creatures as an effect maker, and you put it in a box this time and you send it off and you're like, okay, please use the baby properly. It's very awkward.
Yeah, and then I feel like you really, I mean, you need to go over all the things that it can do. Like, hey, just so you know, like if the actor blows into this, the tongue will move, because then otherwise, if that's not conveyed, they have this really cool effect that they may not even realize that they can use, and then it's just on screen and they don't use that. And you're like, oh, I put work into this being a usable thing and it wasn't even a factor.
Yeah, exactly. And then, you know, add the found footage style, you know, I'm always thinking like, especially with creatures, like, oh, you can do a cut and an angle. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's no cuts and angles like over the shoulder. They're not getting an over shoulder. So when I realized like the way they're going to show the creature, because they got to kind of stay on it, I was like, you know, we put a zipper and like blending stuff in the back. And I was like, actually, they don't need any of that. Like, they didn't need to like make it totally perfect in the back because you never saw the back. So it's like that kind of stuff you can stress about, you know, going into it. But then I realized, hey, I don't need to stress about that at all, because the way they're going to shoot this, you're not going to see the back.
That's interesting. Okay, so like let's take the time constraint away from that. Let's say you had all the time that you would love to have in the world to work on this project. You approach something like a found footage thing, would you approach that differently in the design then if you had longer time to think about it and kind of plan it out?
No, the only thing, if I had more time, we probably just could have made the animation like on the face have more movement, really.
Okay.
We could have built in like motors and made things just move a little more, you know, in a crazy way, maybe give it a blink and stuff. But,
Yeah.
you know, the way it was shot, and then now with digital technology, with it being as grainy and kind of low res as it is, I almost feel like I wouldn't do anything different, because it turned out just fine. And if they did want to augment something, which I think they added maybe a little drool, they digitally could add a blink or a little movement. And with the grain and the way the final look is nobody would know the difference either. You know, it's kind of
Yeah.
a good cheat for a CGI element at that point.
Yeah, it lends itself to hiding it well.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, I've thought about this, and it's like, I think too, the rush element and like having this extreme focus on this one character, on this one thing. I mean, on the other flip side, I kind of like that too. And it kind of
Yeah.
just keeps on your toes, and you're like, have all this, your heightened awareness on this project. And it's like, yeah, maybe a couple more days would have been nice, but you know, it still turned out
Yeah.
fine. So
I imagine that's kind of fun in a way. I mean, stressful maybe in the moment, but also fun elements like there's a rush in the rush, so to speak, you know?
exactly. No,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think that's why so much of us in this field are drawn to it so much, is because there is that rush when you, like, before we put it in the box, it was on one of my coworkers, and you like get to see the thing move, and I have footage of her walking, and it's like, that's the best part of our job, is you take clay and all these raw materials and put paint, but then you put it on somebody and then they give it life, and it's like, it's a huge rush. You're like, oh my gosh, there's the rat creature, look at that thing move, you know. And it's like, that's why we do it, I think.
The
That's why.
payoff. Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine like seeing it come to life. So what's more thrilling for you when you first put it on an actor and you see that it works and it's moving and you see it come to life and in action, or like the final product when you watch like the final cut of the film?
uh well, both, but obviously the first one is when you see it in person first time. It's definitely like reassuring where you're like, okay, yeah, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're getting firsthand reaction from people on set or around you, and it's like, wow, it's rewarding. I always get nervous though when it comes to seeing it with a crowd or in a theater, especially just doing the effects. Is it's out of my hands as far as how they want to edit it or even how they shoot it. I try to be influential on how it's shot, but you just don't know what the finished piece is from my perspective. So you just kind of go and going, I hope they, did it right. What's actually really what I was really happy with was the sound of the creature for the rat. And so that's a whole other thing too, is all the sound effects, add some, you just kind of, have huge anticipation for what are we going to get here. And
Yeah.
if they do it all right, then obviously that's a huge satisfying thing. And then to see the show, I went to the West Coast premiere, and it was like a packed house, and I sat near the front. And so obviously to hear the crowd's reaction to these things is like, of course, that's a huge reward, and to get some claps and stuff out of the crowd. It's like, oh, all right, that's what you do this stuff for. That's why I work 18, 20 hours a day and work with all the chemicals and do everything. And it's like, okay, that's the reward right there.
I'm so glad that you got to see it with the crowd and like experience it. Like movies like this are such crowd movies, like, I mean, yeah, you can sit at home and watch it, but like stuff like this, like I think that's part of the draw for all of us that are like horror fans, is like nothing beats seeing a horror film in the theater with an audience that just like gets it and is reacting. And it's just like, it's like electric almost. So I'm so excited that now it's like coming to be that filmmakers can like sit in the room and experience that again.
Yeah, no, it was awesome, especially to get the audio, of the theater. Because I watched it again at home on your TV, and I have good audio, but it's just that type of movie with the audio, I think, is important in the theater. Surprisingly, obviously the film grain and the quality of the look, isn't amazing for a huge screen because it's this VHS look, but the audio and then with the crowd, it was great.
Nice. That's awesome. So tell us about your other character, the second one that you created for this.
So that's for the Terror for director Ryan Prowse. So that was interesting. So I think a month or so went past after they shot the rat. We had holidays, and then I got a call from the producers like, hey, so the rat turned out pretty cool. So we have this other segment we'd like you to look at and do the same thing. So now I'm kind of aware of this scenario. It's like, okay, I got to make something else, put it in a box, ship it away. Like, okay. And so I read that segment, and it's a cool bit, spoiler alert, but you find out that this prisoner they've been taking care of, you find out he's a vampire. And there was this line specifically in his script where he, as soon as the prisoner grabs somebody, it says he grabs him by his sucker maw, MAUH. And I'm like, what the hell is a sucker maw? And then I kept reading, and he did other things. And then I was like, that line just stuck with me. And it's like, but he's a vampire. So I remember talking with Ryan, and it's like, what the hell? First thing I said to him, okay, I got to ask, what the hell is a sucker maw? And he's like, I don't know. He talked about maybe it's teeth, or didn't really have an idea. I was like, okay, I'm really stuck on this line, sucker maw. And he was like, so for let's go kind of out of bounds with this vampire thing, because it read kind of almost straightforward, like, maybe a guy with teeth and kind of vampire. And it's like, I can't, I was kind of handcuffed being so far away. Like, what do you want me to make? Like prosthetic, like something that someone would just apply makeup wise. But then I had always wanted to do kind of like a mask. It's basically a silicone mask where, again, it's like performer driven, where a performer basically puts their hands inside the mask and they get to like move it mechanically.
Weird. Okay.
That's what he did. He said, let's do it. Let's go for it. So I think I did a quick drawing, and there's some stuff on the internet I pulled from, and he's like, yep. So he was game for like, let's just go crazy. And that whole thing, I think we had 11 days to get that done. And obviously, yeah, it's such a great surprise when you see it kind of come out of nowhere. And it's like, whoa, I think it's kind of very unexpected. the way it turned out. But that was like, okay, I just made it on a guess, and I said, hopefully it fits your person who's wearing this thing. And then if you look, I've looked, and they did a really good job hiding it. So what we did is, when you see the mouth moving, I think there's one shot where it grabs and pulls the guy's face off. So it's kind of convenient to have someone's hands there, so they could really, like, mechanically to do that would have been really hard with, and there's obviously not enough time and budget. So somebody literally just grabbed the guy's face and pull it off with his own hands. But then what we did for some other shots is, when you have him here, obviously his hands were inside his shirt. I made fake arms then that came off to kind of like confuse you. So you're like, he just has his regular arms out like this, but they're fake, and his real arms are kind of inside. So it's kind of,
That's really cool.
Okay. Cheap illusion stuff.
I like to, you're like, this is the cheap, like old school basic stuff. And me, I'm like, this is like cutting edge. This is wild. Like,
I guess there's two ways to look at it.
Now I know what I want to be for Halloween. I need to get a mask where I can like stick my hands.
Yeah, but then you're like, your hands are in there the whole time. It's like,
well, can I hold a beer with the mouth with my hands in there?
Exactly.
That's the important factor for Halloween party. I'm also going to be stuck on Sucker Maw as well. Like, I thought you were going to provide me with the answer to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't, yeah, it's a mouth with a lot of teeth, I guess.
Okay. All right.
Face off.
Let's just use that as an insult, just like randomly throw that out.
Yeah.
All right, Sucker Maw. And people are like, what the hell did she just call me?
Yeah, that's the official name of the creature. It's Sucker Maw.
Sucker Maw. I like that. Cool. All right. I know we got to wrap up here. Is there anything else that you would like to share about the shoot or the creation of these creatures?
Well, I would definitely like to call out, I think, Daniela Pluchino. She was the makeup artist that handled the stuff for the terror. And she did some, she glued on the prosthetics for people getting damage to their faces and whatnot. And she handled the wrangling of the mask as well, and that character. And then she also came in, we ended up shooting later the face melt at Ratmus. She kind of headed that up as well.
Nice.
And he has his face issues.
Face issues. We're experiencing some face issues in the newsroom. Yeah. Nice. Okay, cool. Well, thank you. This was really awesome. If you have not watched it yet, I hope you watch it. VHS 94 is streaming on Shudder. Check it out.